bringing you the life of a dad. This podcast is going out to all people that have families. You're a dad, you're a mom, you're a parent in general, and you're trying to do the best by your kids, your wife, your significant other, your spouse, whoever that might be in your life that you care for. And I just want to touch on a couple of things while we're into this. This is going to be a new thing that I'm starting up. I will be doing this probably once every 2 weeks. Just going on the series again about life of actually being a dad, or in my case, because I'm a dad and a parent and a father and a husband. There's a lot of things that go through your mind when you are a parent. There's a lot of things that go through your mind with a husband, that you are a husband, or vice versa if you're the wife and everything else of that. So this series is basically dedicated to that. If anybody has some comments and everything else of that, feel free to comment. If you have questions and everything else of that, feel free to comment on that. Now, people that are listening on the podcast and everything else of that, you cannot see the picture that's in front of me right now for that. And that's a picture of me and my kids. I have 5 children. You know, it's a joy, a curse. Some days you just don't know if you're coming or going, but it's always a blessing. So let's get into it. Okay, like I said, I'm the parent to 5 kids. I have 3 girls. Highest age is 16. The lowest age, well, we're not going to go into the lowest ages like that, but as a parent, you'd figure so that, well, you really want to do for the best for them and everything else, and try as your best you can. Sometimes, well, you absolutely fail at that. Sometimes you're absolutely winning and you're epic at that. So this is the first week back at school for my kids and everything else of that. Check something real quick. Just make sure my settings are live and everything else like that. It's just kind of pausey and blurry. Just make sure my settings are live and everything else like that. And of course, it's not showing the screen correctly. It's just kind of pausey and blurry. Just make sure. Oh, who knew? Let's go into it right now. Let's check. The screen correctly. It's just kind of course, you're doing stuff like this, the settings are always wrong, but let's keep going while we talk. Again, you're seeing this on Mixer. If you're seeing it, you're probably seeing it live. If you're listening to it on the podcast and everything else, so that we're going to get the podcast settings going to correctly the way it's supposed to. Again, I'm doing this live. This is my first time doing this, so forgive me if everything doesn't go correctly and everything does not go well. So what's the number one question that most people have when parent? Are you doing a great job? Are you doing what needs to be done for you? Blah, 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 and everything else like that. Is everything going the way you think it should go? That's the question that everybody has on their mind. And the answer to that question is, you will never know until they're grown. You can see glimpses of it. You can see things that you wish that you can change. You'll see things that you wish that you buckled down on to make sure that they got. You'll see things that you know they're going to hit that wall. Do you let them hit that wall or do you not? Now, everybody has their own philosophy about this and everything else. So that I always do like this. I advise my kids the best way I can about what they should and shouldn't do. But there comes a point in time when they hit that wall. Now, when they hit that wall, they have a couple of choices. They can either A, pay attention to what you said and say, well, I'm not going to hit that wall again. Or B, continuously hit that wall. Now, unfortunately, my children, some of them have issues. I'm going to start with myself first. Excuse me. As a dad and everything else that I have anger management issues. This is because I've lived on the streets of New York all my life. I've had situations that happen to me on the streets of New York that makes me tough as nails, but being a parent, being tough as nails is not always the best thing. Gotta have that soft spot in between. I didn't have that when I first started out with my oldest child. I was rough around the edges. My wife, bless her, tended to say, okay, babe, you shouldn't do that. Babe, you need to let some things go. That's in the past. Now, I come from a background where single parent home. My grandfather was basically like my father. He would come around and institute the beatings when the beatings that my mom gave me wasn't sufficient. And I got lots of those because, she was a tough, very tough mother, but she loved me to death. She instilled everything that I am into me today, and hopefully this makes me, at least a okay father, but hopefully a great father. So I don't beat my kids like my mom beat me, because I thought that, I'm going to try a different route. I'm going to try the conversation, talk to them part. Now, don't get me wrong. I will, if I need to, do what I need to do. Don't get it confused. But I wanted that, to try things differently. Now, some people are like, well, you shouldn't touch your kids and everything else. That what you do in your own household is basically what you do. I'm going to do what's best for me and mine. Now, again, I try my best and everything else that to be, civil when it comes to other people with their kids and everything else that. But sometimes if your kid's out of control, well, just don't keep them around me. I would speak to the parents and everything else that, tell them what I feel. But some parents, in nowadays terms, they have no clue exactly what they're literally supposed to be doing with their kids. They feel that school is their babysitter. They leave their kids at school and, oh, that's it. I have to work for a couple hours and everything else. That's all I need to do. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get home, give them food and everything else. And that's all I really need to do. No, that's not what you need to do. This right here, if you're seeing it live, you are watching a picture of my wife and my youngest daughter. Excuse me again. But I, on the other hand, am a more hands-on approach type parent. My wife is, again, a hands-on approach type parent. So we tend to stay on our kids' business about everything. Again, my kids are in school right now. Not at this present moment, but they just started school back. And we actually homeschool our kids. Our kids go to virtual school. Now, it's still a regular school. They still do exactly everything that a regular school does. They have lessons that they have to speak to the teachers. They have to video conference with their teachers, everything else like that. It's a virtual classroom. So even though it's virtual, I can control everything that's going on around this. For that, I'm in the business, I'm in the classroom, I teach my kids lessons when teachers not teaching them, so I know exactly everything that's going on with the class. My teachers are constantly in touch with me, so I know what my kids are doing. So I know what my kids' abilities are. When a new teacher comes in, I can explain to them, okay, this is my child's abilities, this is my child's deficiencies. You'll have to build up around them to do what you need to do. Now, a lot of people, even my aunt, a lot of different members of family members say, well, they need to be in school to have that, personal thing, education, and be around other kids and everything else. Okay, that may be fine in general, but as you see, as much of stuff that's been going on in the schools around lately, you can tell that's not necessarily a good thing. Um, it's something that homeschool, I can dictate their pace. Again, some of my kids have issues. My oldest is bipolar, like my wife is. My middle child has anger management issues, like I do. Okay, we get counseling, we do things, whatever we need to do to mitigate these issues. I have one son that has speech problems. Again, he talks to me all the time. He's clear as day to me, and so that, but when he talks to other people, they might not be able to understand him clearly. Okay, so that's the thing that he's working on in a specialized speech class. Again, still in virtual school. Then I have another son that basically test wise, he absolutely cannot do any time tests. Anytime there's pressure on him and anything else like that, it puts so much pressure on him. He gets so much anxiety that he cannot function for the tests. But in virtual school, since he has an unlimited time to do an assignment, what might take a normal child, an hour or two to do, when there's no pressure on him, he gets it done easily. The minute you put a clock on it, well, stuff can go bad real fast. So you have to do what's best for your children. Again, so since they're home with me all the time and everything else, I'm the father that's involved. My wife goes to work, but she also she's part of lessons for some of my kids. Now we transfer back and forth between what lessons should be for me and what lessons should be for her. So right now I'm doing the language arts, the math, basically the core classes. Not to say that science, history are not core classes, but the ones that they basically test them on. Now they do test them on in Florida for science and the rest of that, but those are only tested like every so often, whereas the other ones are like every year. My wife was doing my youngest kids all of the classes, then she switched part of it over to me because I'm a little bit harder, or she's a little bit softer, or I don't know how would you say it, but she will let things slide more than I will. And again, that's not a bad thing. Actually, that's a good thing, because there's a lot of times where basically my wife says, okay, or I have to text her and everything else, so then I have to say, okay, I broke a kid today. Because when you're not doing what I feel that you can do, it can be disappointing to me. And when it's disappointing to me, then I, at that point, tend to get on you a little bit more, ride you a little bit harder, say things that, it's still appropriate for a child to hear, but it might be hard for them to hear. So, I'm more involved. Again, my oldest is a teenager. My second oldest, my son, is a teenager as well. And my next one below that is a preteen. So I have one at 16 so she's only got 2 more years before she's really going to be, maybe trying to get up out the house. I don't know. Then my son, my oldest son, he's 13 and he's like, well, he plays video games most of the day. Doesn't look forward to doing a lot of things but playing the video game, but hey, he's a kid. I encourage him to go outside, or actually my wife tells me I need to make sure he goes outside more. Then, that's what I need to do. So you really need to be up on what your kids are all about. If you can. Now, again, I have the luxury, since I work for myself, to manage my kids more. My wife works, on jobs like that, but she works for herself as well. Technically she does what she needs to do for us. She works the hours that she wants to work. She can work longer or short hours, again, to accommodate whatever needs to be done. The person that she works for, again, she works for herself, but when you're when you contract, when you have your own business and you have a long-term contract with a person that they need you there virtually not every day, but a few times a week, at that point it's like that you're you know, you can to other people will look like you're working for someone else. She's your boss, even though it doesn't matter. Even if you're a private contractor, you still have a boss. You're your own boss, but you still have your boss. So again, she deals with more of the emotional side of things that I can't. I tend to be, like I said, much harder. So just one example. My wife tells them to do something. Okay. It doesn't get done for whatever reason. Okay, actually a prime example. My wife's mother, unfortunately, has deteriorated to the point where she's actually living with us, and so and she has dementia. So my wife told for them to go outside to get. We had a big box that had pads that you put on the bed. My wife told them to go get the pads and put on the bed because she's trying to put them in the bed tonight. Now, first off, there was two things that was supposed to be done. The laundry for their grandmother's bed was supposed to have been done that day. They forgot. Okay, so that was strike one. Next thing, they were told to go outside. Okay, well, we have all the laundry sheets and everything else around to get for that, but some of that stuff is stored outside inside of our shed behind the washer because we don't need to store all the stuff in the house. We already had like 4 or 5 of them were dirty, so it was like, okay, go outside to the shed, get them out the box, bring 1 or 2 inside, and everything else like that. Okay. 5 minutes went down. My wife is actually looking at, okay, they haven't got the PP pads yet. Okay. So, of course, I go outside to check on to see, okay, what's taking so long for you to get these damn PP pads? They're still outside looking. Oh, there's a spider. Now, at that point, I got super angry and super mad because they know she was waiting for these pads to put her to bed, to keep her in her routine. So basically, I tore through the thing to get the pads and everything else today. And the first thing I said, now this is still during part of summer. They have a late night bedtime during that summertime and everything else like that. So since they didn't get the laundry done like they were supposed to, B, didn't get the PP pads in a timely manner, I yelled and screamed and told them to get their bleeping beeping butts in bed. They look shocked, surprised, but I don't want to hear it. I don't care. You had a chance to do it right the first time. You had a chance to do it right the second time. You still didn't do either one of those two things. Time for bed. Even though they still had another, basically, 3 hours before their normal bedtime would be in the summertime, they had to go to bed for not listening what I told them to do. And then the next day, until they did X number of loads of laundry and the laundry that mom had already asked him to do, they couldn't get on the computers. They couldn't go outside. They couldn't do anything that would be quote unquote fun for them to do. Now, that's just a small example of what my day is. Now a lot of time I shrug things off. I put it to the side. I try my best, since I know my personality type, that I quick to anger, to say, okay, I let it be. I try to say, just like I'm rubbing my eye right now, if you're actually watching me on video, so that you'd be like, okay, it gets to the point where my eye, how you get that pain behind your eye because you have a stress headache and everything else, so that, I tend to try to let things go so that they will not get a beating. They will not get harsh words said to them all the time and everything else like that. The problem with that is that sometimes I'm not actually being a good husband, because when I do that, when I try to make sure that the stress is not going to weigh me down and everything else, so that I tend to let them do stuff that they're not supposed to do. And let me rephrase that. Not what they're not supposed to do, but their chores supposed to have been done first before they got to do this, play on videos and everything else, so that. But I'm like, okay, I'm just going to let it go today, blah, blah, blah. But then when the wife gets home, babe, again, this is her. Didn't I ask you to make sure that X, Y, and Z get done? Now I'm stuck. Now, even though she told the kids themselves, she told me because I'm supposed to overhear what she said, so I make sure they do it. When I let stuff like that go, I get the eye, or I get this, babe, I know you heard. Yeah, I heard, and then I have to take the blame for that because it's my fault. I'm supposed to be, even when my brain is saying, yes, I don't want to deal with it today, sometimes you're supposed to deal with it today. Now, if it's a minor thing and everything else, so that she'll be mad at me, upset with me and everything else, so that it's fine, which is not fine. But you deal with it, kiss her, make her feel better and everything else, so that, and you make them, it's like, okay, stop what you're doing. We're supposed to got this done. You're supposed to got this done. Let's go get this done. Whatever it is that we should have already done, and again, including me, let's get this situation taken care of and everything else, so she can feel better that we listened and she's listened too. So you have to do a balance between what's good for you, what's good for if you have a partner, your partner, and what's good for the kids. So that's what you have to deal with. Do I fail at this more often than not? Yeah, sometimes. I mean, to be real, I'm not perfect. I'm never claimed to be perfect and everything else like that, but I try my best to try to balance out everything. Wife's issues, my issues, our kids' issues. It's that juggling act that you're like constantly trying to keep balls in the air, if you're a juggler. Sometimes, you drop the ball. You try to throw the balls up higher in the air, try to scoop down, pick that ball up with the floor, throw it back in the mix, and get back to juggling the way you're supposed to. Sometimes you're juggling, you're not feeling really the way you're supposed to. One hit ball hits the ground, and you're like, you're still juggling, of course. Damn, there's a ball down there. Yeah, I'll get to that ball in a little while. And you still juggle what you have, so that, and then when you catch your breath, you're like, okay, reach down while you're juggling with one hand, pick that ball up, and then throw it back in the mix. So what I'm trying to say is so that, as a parent, as a dad, as a father, others, for that, there's going to be a juggling act. There's going to be days that you're going to be like, oh my God, do I really have to deal with this? There's going to be days where you're going to be like, I can do this. You got so many things in the air, people be throwing more balls, and you be like, yeah, I got this. Come on, bring it. Keep going. Got to keep that ball going. Will it always be like that? Yeah. Till the day you die. Your job is to make sure until that day comes that you're doing all you can, when you can, as best you can. So all the fathers out there that think it's like that, well, I can't do it. I'm not going to say it's not hard, because it is, but you can do it. You have no problem, doing other things that you consider fun. So why would this be a problem? It's not. This is just something you got to do. Because of these faces here, they don't care about your problems. Well, they do. Because you can see it in their faces when you're not doing well, and they can see that, ooh. But you keep going anyway. You got to be you. You have to be able to say inside that, I can do this today. And just take it one day at a time. Every day you get up and Sunday in the morning, Sunday, I have a shoulder that's complete and absolutely, utterly, scrambled. The hair is so big inside of it. I had one on that side, got cut, we fixed this one. This has already been fixed once, it's got to be refixed again. I'm in constant pain in the shoulder right here. Does that matter? I got to mop the floor inside here tonight before I go to bed. Am I going to get the floor mopped? Yep. Again, there's going to be days when you're like, I really, really, really don't want to deal with this. Those are the days you got to sit there, push through, and say, okay, I get it done. You're in the running. You have it done. You're getting there. Got it. Then there'll be days when all the wind's knocked in, and you got to hope that your significant other, if you have one, can sit there and pick up the slack for you. Or when you can't, you just can't. Long as they're fed, long as they're healthy, if that's the best that you can do for that day, will that be enough? And you've given them primary love, it's all good. That's the most you can hope for in a given day. To keep them fed, safe, knowledge if you can, and most importantly, that love component. So I'm going to go into more stuff about my kids and everything else, and I'm going to go into detail about each one of them. Again, not heavy detail, just going to tell you the conditions that some of them have, because the only one that don't have any conditions that I see thus far is my youngest. All the rest of them, including me, have some sort of issue that we have to deal with. Okay, so right now, so that we're going to go to the parenting forum on Reddit, and we're just going to take a look. It's going to be the last thing for the day before we log out. Before we say that's enough, we quit. Again, this going to be short sessions, so that about our time here is going to be about 35 minutes. That's what I'm going to keep it down to. And then once I get more and more into things for that, it might get it to an hour long. So people can have, or maybe longer. I mean, it depends. This series might really take off, and people might be able to do stuff, or might need advice, or might not need advice, might have a question on how I deal with 5 kids. You never know. But let's go with this one right here. Now it says, again, this is a Reddit post on parenting. My 15-year-old son wants to drop out of high school. School starts for next week again. I chose a school one because my kids are in school right now. School starts next week for my 15, almost 16-year-old. However, he said he wants to drop out of high school. I don't approve of this at all, but I understand the value of a good education, and I would like him to at least finish high school. I had to be pulled out of school at the age of 17 to help make money for my family because we were really poor. It was getting really hard for me to get a good job as an adult since I have no education. And I ended up having to take high school extension courses and was professionally behind most other people I knew. Bring it up a little bit bigger for that. How can I convince my son to stay at school? I'm worried he'll skip school, and since he had a problem with skipping school last year. Okay. This one's, if it was my child, because again, I have my 16-year-old pretty much hates school. That's one of the reasons why we have him in virtual school. And I would actually tell her so that, if she has the opportunity to put her child in virtual school, if she has the time, that might be a good option. So that way then, so that he can still finish his school experience, but in an online school, and he can just take the classes. He'll take all the classes, but he'll have more time to get the stuff done. Again, I don't know if he might be a poor student. It might be something happening in school that's making him not want to be in school. You never know, because it doesn't go into a lot of detail. Again, my daughter, 16, she doesn't really like people. She doesn't like other people at all. It's part of the conditioning she has. So being in a brick and mortar school isn't the thing for her. Even with the conditions that I encourage her all the time, okay, get the schoolwork done, get the school. I say this so much, it's like literally she's like, Dad, I know, Dad, literally, they're 16, 15, they're teenagers. And again, my teenager has a condition. All you can do is stress that how hard it is to be able to get a job later on in school. Now, I'm not saying college. That's a completely different fight. Sorry. That's a completely different fight. This is high school. You need, because most jobs out there, even for McDonald's and everything else, that, 15, 16, 17 years old, they want you to be in high school, and then once you turn after a certain point, if you don't have your high school education, even McDonald's don't really want you. They might hire you in a pinch, but then usually what happens is once corporate get around it, because what happens is they feel like, okay, well, if you can't stay in school long enough, at least to finish a high school education with, even with D's. Again, not to say that you should go through life saying you need to get a D just to get out of school. I'm not saying that, but at least finish, at least get it done, because everybody looks at you and say, okay, you if you didn't finish high school, what makes you think you're going to stay on this job here? When it starts to get hard on days when it's like that, you got to work at it and everything else, and jobs get hard, you're probably going to be like, you know what? I quit. I don't really want to do this. I'm done. Yeah, that's not going to help you. So, convince your son is the only thing you can do is talk, sit down with them, have a conversation, find out exactly why they don't want to be in school. Because again, it might be something that someone's bullying them in school. Okay, that's something you can take care of. Or, people picking them on the hairstyle. This high school, they do crap to other kids for fun just because. It might be that there. If there's a problem with how he's learning in school, so that might be an issue. He might feel that, okay, well, I'm not doing well in school, I'm not going to pass. Find a tutor. Find someone that will help him. Again, if he was failing the year before and stuff like that, schools are mandatory to help give you help for your student, even if that means a private tutor, so that if your grades are slipping like that, you talk to the counselor and they'd be like, my son is having problems, he's not going to make it through if we don't do something. So they will bend over backwards. You can get a 4 plan, special education classes and everything else to get that child to school. So without more information, I can't give a more detailed response to this, but my feeling on this right here is that this person needs to find out what there's an issue. There's an issue somewhere. What is that issue? Once you find out what that issue is, you are more apt to be able to keep that child in school. Again, well, that's all I have to say about this and everything else to that. This is the podcast number 1. I would like to thank everybody that's listening so that to have a pleasant evening and everything else to that. Again, I'll be putting out these probably once every 2 weeks. That'll be the time schedule that I'm going to go with this on and everything, so that if this series gets popular or people have questions, please hit a comment. Put in the comment section, what do you feel about this? Is your son in this boat? If your daughter in this boat? If your kids have anything that, I might know a little bit something about, or I might not know anything about for that. It's a place that you can talk, have a free conversation, everything else to that. But until then, this is Warp on the 3 saying warp out, have fun, and of course, we will catch you on the next one.